Welcome to the 2019 commencement for the UC Berkeley School of Information. I'm Anno Saxenian. I'm the Dean of the iSchool, and I'm really delighted to welcome all of you here today to celebrate the class of 2019. First, a warm welcome to all of you in the audience, the partners, families, and friends of today's graduates. We want you all to know how much we appreciate your contributions to the success of these graduates at the same time that we honor their hard work and accomplishments. Let's give the family and friends a round of applause. I also want to acknowledge that many people today, our graduates, as well as their families and friends, have traveled very long distances to join us. I'm sure this is not a complete list, but we're aware of some of you have traveled from as far as Brazil, India, Mexico, Singapore, Spain, and the UK, as well, of course, as many states across the US. Thank you and welcome to Berkeley, rainy Berkeley. I also want to welcome the iSchool faculty, who are our intellectual core and foundation. Thank you to the faculty, as well as the staff, who are all around us today and quite literally keep everything running smoothly in South Hall. We're really fortunate to have such an outstanding faculty and staff. They embody the excellence that we aspire to at Berkeley. So let's give them a big hand, too. I also want to welcome a very special guest today, the Chancellor of UC Berkeley, Carol Christ. Carol has made time in her busy schedule to join us for today's celebration. I think I'm not alone when saying that she's my role model, and I suspect for many women on the Berkeley campus. I will say more about what she's done for Berkeley shortly. Last but not least, I'm really delighted to welcome and recognize the iSchool graduating class of 2019. There are 144 students graduating today, and 119 of you are here today. Welcome. I just break this down. There are 3 of you who are earning Ph.D.s. 49 students from our Master of Information Management and Systems, or MIMS program, and 67 students from our Master of Information and Data Science, or MIDS program. That's 67 out of a graduating cohort of 92. Biggest cohort that we've had yet in this program. Congratulations to every one of you for your hard work and for the accomplishments that bring you here today. We're also proud that 1/3 of our graduating class today are women. That includes 1/4 of our data science graduates, 1/3 of our PhDs, and 1/2 of our information management graduates. We still have a lot of work to do in achieving our diversity goals, but I think this is a moment to appreciate a good performance as a STEM program. Well, this is a really special commencement for me because it's the last one as Dean of the School of Information. It has been such a privilege to serve as Dean of the iSchool for the past 15 years. I've been fortunate to work with incredibly talented and committed group of students, faculty, and staff, and I'm so proud of what we've accomplished together. This has been a period of tremendous growth in the iSchool. To give you a sense of the scale of change, as recently as 10 years ago, in 2009, I presided over a commencement with a graduating class of 29 students. So today we're graduating 144 students. When I became dean, we had 1 master's degree and a very small PhD program. Today we have 3 professional master's degrees and a significantly larger PhD program. We've also weathered a major recession in 2008 and university budget cuts in all but 1 or 2 of the past 15 years. change can be really, change like this can be really disruptive and disorienting. And I'm really proud that despite the dislocations of this growth, which have been very real for all of us, we've preserved our commitment to the school's vision of educating professionals and scholars to design and build technologies, and to do so with deep understanding of human users and of the institutional and social factors that shape technology. The students who are graduating today, all of you, work with the latest tools and technologies, from machine learning to natural language processing to data visualization to artificial intelligence. At the same time, they understand that the shape of technology evolution is not predetermined or inevitable, that technology doesn't have its own intent or by itself can't change the world, but rather that it must be developed with care and deliberation because it can be a very powerful amplifier, whether for good or for ill. They also recognize that technological change, I should say, is not equivalent to human progress. Progress requires careful thought about our values and our priorities, about our connections to others and to our natural environment, and the commitment to serve not just our own needs, but the needs of others, including future generations. I see this commitment every day at the iSchool, and I'm so proud of it. Our students are prepared to ask, what is information? Or, is information processing the best metaphor for understanding the human mind? They understand that there's no such thing as raw data, that there are always people making choices about how the data is collected, how it's aggregated, and how it's classified. They think about how to embed values, such as privacy, into the technologies they design, rather than trying to fix them after the fact. They fight for transparency and legibility in the algorithms that are being deployed willy-nilly throughout society today. And they're developing ways to detect and prevent the risks and harms from misinformation, surveillance, and cyber theft. In short, they care about understanding and addressing the needs of users, especially those with disabilities, without access to resources or political voice, those left behind, as much as they care about optimizing for any things like processing speed and power, or for ad revenues, more than, I should say. You'll see as we go forward in this ceremony, in the work that we celebrate today, that these graduates really do embody the core commitments of the iSchool, the commitment to being sensitive both to users and to history, social, and institutional context in which technology is deployed. These students, all of you give me hope for the future. You're the kind of professionals that we need to develop our collective future. You're thinking about what we need as a society, not just what we'll click on. You're helping us diversify the technology workforce and challenge its deep-seated biases. You will question the misuse of data and the adoption of black box algorithms. And you will help us to develop policy that helps preserve our democratic commitments. I'm really regularly and have been regularly blown away by the breadth of the vision and the commitments that you put into the projects that you present to us in your classes, in your capstone projects, in some of the projects that we will give awards to today. So you, our graduates, will be going on to jobs in the private sector, the public sector, nonprofits. Some of you will be working in jobs that directly address these pressing issues of privacy, information security, technology policy. Some will do research on the future of technology and democracy, or big data and development. The majority of you will be working in important jobs as product managers, user experience designers, data scientists, software engineers, consultants, but all of you will bring the values and commitments that you gained at the iSchool, and that's really the key. There are now close to 1,400 iSchool alums around the world. One of the most gratifying experiences of my tenure has been watching the iSchool alums grow the community and return to us, to Berkeley, year after year, often to recruit the next generation of iSchool graduates. This is a very powerful network, and I urge you to take advantage of it and join it and sustain the commitments and relationships that you've built here. and spread them well beyond Berkeley, California. So to the graduating class of 2019, I am so grateful for the support you've given me and one another. I'm optimistic about the future because you are a reflection of the values that have given the iSchool such a focus and direction. I'm also very optimistic about the future of the iSchool, which will be in the able hands of my colleague, John Chuang. And I'm delighted that I'll be returning to join the iSchool faculty after a year of sabbatical. So thank you all. It gives me real pleasure now to announce our 2019 commencement speaker, Geoff Nunberg. Nunberg is a linguist, a researcher, and currently an adjunct full professor at the School of Information. Prior to coming to Berkeley, he served as a principal scientist at Xerox PARC, where he worked on the development of linguistic technologies. He has also taught at UCLA, the University of Rome, the University of Naples, and Stanford University. Nunberg has written on a wide range of topics on semantics and pragmatics, text classification, normative grammar, written language structure, and the social and cultural implications of digital technologies. Most recently, he's written about the use of taboo language like slurs and vulgarities. He's written many books about language, including The Way We Talk Now, Going Nuclear, which was named one of the 10 best nonfiction books of 2004 by Amazon.com, and one of the 10 best books of the year by San Jose Mercury. His 2006 book, Talking Right, How Conservatives Turned Liberalism into a Tax-Raising, Latte-Drinking, Sushi-Eating, Volvo-Driving, New York Times-reading, Body-Piercing, Hollywood-loving, left-wing freak show, was named one of the 10 best books of the year by the Washington Monthly. His 2009 book, The Years of Talking Dangerously, was selected as a notable book of the year by the San Francisco Chronicle. And his most recent book, Ascent of the A-Word, was released in 2012, and a colleague of ours at Stanford described it as a satisfying blend of great scholarship, wit, and splendid logic. I think, as you'll note when you hear from him today, that reflects all of Geoff's work. He has well known to many of us for his regular and very entertaining features on language on the NPR program Fresh Air. And last but definitely not least, Geoff is a wonderful colleague and a member of the iSchool community. He teaches 2 outstanding courses in the iSchool, both with Paul Duguid, an undergraduate course on the history of information and a graduate class on concepts of information. Please join me in warmly welcoming Geoff Nunberg.
Thank you. Don't we all look fly? I'm very honored to be asked to do this. I've been privileged to be associated with the iSchool for over 15 years, from around the time Anno took over as dean. As you no doubt know already, you're going to get called on a lot to explain to people what a school of information is. So I want to share with you my take about what makes this place exceptional and how that makes you exceptional, not just for your benefit, but for the benefit of all the family and friends and partners who supported you. Of course, they already know you're exceptional, but I want them to know what this place had to do with that. And I'll really be just enlarging on the remarks that Anno made. If you're looking for a concise picture of what the School of Information is about and how it got that way, you might check out the video of a talk that Anno gave a couple of weeks ago to recount her 15-year tenure as dean. Actually, my only quibble with the talk is that it wasn't sufficiently immodest. When Anno took on the deanship, this was a smallish school that was just beginning to spread its wings, and she had a huge role, not just in expanding the programs, but when endowing it with the 2 features that, to my mind, make it exceptional. First, broadening the faculty to include people doing ethnography, sociology, public policy, history, linguistics, and so forth. And second, by creating the culture of community, which is what alumni are always pointing to when you ask them what the most memorable feature of this place was. Now, I tend to see the world through the lens of language, and I'll be making a few points here about words. For starters, I'm never sure how to describe our program. Are we interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary, transdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, or what? I had the idea once of describing the iSchool as diversiplinary, but that was not my greatest creation. There's this new management buzzword, cross-silo. The next time somebody asks you what the iSchool's about, you could say, oh, we do a lot of cross-silo thinking. For my part, when people ask me that question, I say, well, we're sort of eclectic, and leave it at that. Whether you call it eclecticism or interdisciplinarity or whatever, the important thing to understand is that it's intrinsic to what we do. A geologist can team up with people from other disciplines, but it's not necessary. There's nothing in the nature of a rock that requires you to think about it from different points of view. But information isn't something you can study through a single window. It lives two lives. It has a material life. It accumulates on servers and networks and software and databases, on cell phones and surveillance cameras and in MRIs. And it survives in printed documents that still have cultural weight, like books and ballots and parking tickets. Oh, and diplomas. I take it you would not want to come up here and have Anno hand you a USB drive with a PDF of your degree. Maybe next year's master's project. But information also has a social life, to quote the title of a classic book by John Seely Brown and Paul Duguid, which I know many of you have read. Governments and corporations sweep it up, kids text it furtively in the classroom, democracies die without it. So any school of information is going to be anchored in two disciplinary poles. There are the formal disciplines that study the way information is stored, processed, and transmitted, CS, statistics, data science, and so on. And there are the disciplines that touch the context where information takes on meaning, the culture, the market, public life. People usually come to the iSchool with a background in one or the other of these poles, but the idea is to make everybody kind of bi-dialectal. You want students to lose their native accents, so to speak. So you can't tell by listening to somebody what their undergraduate major was. Let's sip of water here. But the relation between those poles is binary but not quite symmetrical. That transition's easier in one direction than another. Let me tell you a story I heard from Brian Smith, a computer scientist and philosopher who's now at the University of Toronto. Back in the 1960s, Brian was an undergraduate at Oberlin majoring in physics, but he was also a gifted amateur musician, and he got very interested in computer-generated music, which was then in its formative stages. Now, Oberlin also has a famous music conservatory, and after a while, the composition students sort of took over the computer music project. Now, there were two reasons for that, Brian says. On the one hand, the software just became more versatile and accessible. And then, too, as Brian says, it turns out to be a lot harder to turn a geek into a musician than to turn a musician into a geek. Brian told me that story back in the 1980s when we were colleagues at the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center, or the legendary Xerox PARC, as the press is always referring to it. John Seely Brown was running PARC back then, and he was bringing in social scientists and artists and philosophers and people like Paul Duguid and me. The idea being that if you understood the context and aesthetics of technology use, that understanding would somehow infuse the technology itself. I think of what Henri Matisse once said, a colorist makes his presence known in a charcoal sketch. That idea did get through to a lot of technologists at PARC, but it wasn't an easy sell. One of the hardest things in the world is to recognize rigor in disciplines that are more discursive or subjective than your own, wherever you're starting from. Mathematical logicians think philosophers of logic are woolly-headed. The psychopharmacologists roll their eyes at the psychoanalysts. And it takes a huge leap of faith for a hard-nosed coder to imagine that ethnography or philosophical ethics could be anything more than just airy-fairy gobbledygook. So most tech people didn't get why PARC was doing that. And in fact, even 15 years later, when The Social Life of Information was published, a lot of people took the title to be making just a silly claim. But that title doesn't seem so preposterous anymore. The new understanding was summed up very nicely by Doug Cutting, who's another former Park colleague who went on to create the Hadoop framework, which a lot of you know. As he put it, the biggest problems of technology today are not technical. That's what gives rise to pervasive algorithm anxiety, as I call it. 25 years ago, algorithm was a word you only ran into in the technical literature, and it just referred to a recipe for getting an optimal result, like alphabetizing a list of names or managing machine memory or whatever. Now the media are full of stories about algorithms, usually to point out how biased and fallible they are. I have a whole file of headlines like how recommendation algorithms run the world and the violence of the algorithm. And one I saw in the New York Times a couple of months ago, the algorithmification of human experience. Algorithmification, there's an expression that deserves to die horribly. Ideally in a head-on collision with cross-silo thinking. So people in tech are saying, we really have to do something about all these problems of bias and abuse and privacy and misinformation and toxic content and so on. Engineers being engineers, their first instinct is to see these as essentially technical problems and keep throwing more cycles at them. And these are very hard AI problems, and it's clear that the algorithms need a lot more tuning. Why should I trust Facebook to get hate speech right when they have other algorithms that are telling me that my interests include beauty pageants, the band Journey, and the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame? True, this is true. But tech people tend to struggle more with the conceptual issues. How do you define the problem, and what would an optimal solution look like? They rarely give any sign of having learned the lesson that Brian learned at Oberlin in the 60s, that Park was evangelizing for in the 80s, or that the iSchool has been teaching for several decades now. And engineers, being engineers, once again, their instinct here is to attack these questions as pure deductive exercises. Hey, we're smart, we can just reason this out. How hard could it be? Take information and propaganda. Now, this is a topic I've worked on. In fact, I just finished an article on the history of those notions for a forthcoming companion to the history of information that Princeton University Press is doing. So I was particularly interested in a slick video that Facebook put out last year about its efforts to fight fake news. At one point, the data manager for newsfeed integrity is defining these notions. So he draws a Venn diagram on the whiteboard that partitions the whole space of digital content according to two features. Everything anybody ever says is either true or false, and either deceptive or sincere. So up here on the left, this quadrant is the true but deceptive place where propaganda lives, and down here in the false and deceptive quadrant is where fake news lives, and here on the other side is the false but sincere stuff, which is just being wrong, and so on. And I'm thinking, you know, the city you're trying to police has a lot more precincts than that. He's clearly well-intentioned, but he seems to have no idea how many terabytes of philosophy and history and sociology have been dedicated to mapping the landscape of public discourse. It's basically what I think of as dorm room epistemology, the kind of thing you come up in these Red Bull-fueled dorm room bull sessions when you're in college. The problem here is that you don't see that you're putting yourself at the mercy of ordinary language. I mean the ordinary language, the everyday vocabulary that we use to talk about these things, and the everyday assumptions that pass for common sense, which are both saturated with hidden ideology and cultural preconceptions. As the philosopher Paul Deman said, there's nothing more theoretical than the language of the street. These dorm room theories are pervasive in the tech world. Jenna Burrell and Elisa Aurelia of the iSchool have written about the myths of what you could call dorm room theories of development, like the idea you can just sprinkle these rural, low-income populations with mobile phones, and an efficient market will sprout up like geraniums. Or think of the people at the iSchool here who are concerned about the fairness of hiring algorithms. And they have to contend with the sorts of dorm room theories about the tech gender gap that were exemplified in the screed that Google engineer posted a couple of years ago that had everybody up in the arms. Or if you've been watching the NBA playoffs, which I assume you've all been doing, you may have seen the 1-minute TV ad that Apple has been running to tout the privacy features of the new iPhone. It's a stream of about 25 brief images that are meant to connote privacy in one way or another. A teenager slamming the door to her bedroom, to a room with "keep out" written on it. a guy in a public bathroom walking down to the last urinal so he isn't near anybody else, somebody shredding a document, drawing the blinds, and so on. And then the text comes on the screen. If privacy matters in your life, it should matter to the phone your life is on. Now, to my mind, the privacy features I'm looking for in a cell phone are not quite the same as the ones I want to find in a public bathroom. So I sent a link to that ad to Deirdre Mulligan and asked her just how many conceptions of privacy it was evoking. She came up with half a dozen or so. Privacy is property, privacy is boundary negotiation, privacy is freedom from intrusion, and so on. I love being in a place where I have colleagues like Deirdre I can call on. Now, of course, this is just Apple's ad agency trying to whip up a souffle of feelings to sell a phone. But it gives you a sense of what a tangled set of notions the word privacy evokes in our conversations about technology and about the challenges that people like Deirdre and Chris Hoofnagel face when they try to operationalize or codify them. Now, this sort of thinking is depressingly endemic in the tech world. But my sense is that most of the students who come out of the iSchool are more or less inoculated against it. When you look at the work our students are doing at whatever level, master's, mids, mix, whatever, you usually pick up a much more nuanced sense of both the social context and the ethical implications of the project. In fact, Brian Smith was wrong about geeks and musicians. Coders and designers and data analysts don't have to become full-feathered ethnographers or ethicists or whatever. They just have to know what it would be like to be one of those things. They have to realize that these problems are difficult and not intuitive. They might call for specialized expertise, or they might require the capacity to step back and extract yourself from the everyday language and preconceptions that cloud the way you see the world. Whatever work you wind up doing, your capacity for that kind of insight is going to confer huge benefits for your organization, for society, and by the by for you. It's a competitive advantage in your career that's more important than your technical skills or just raw intelligence, which is something that young people in particular tend to put pretty much weight on. Google job interviewers used to be famous for posting these idiotic brain teasers like estimate how many tennis balls can fit in an airplane. I can't imagine wanting to work with the person who asked that question or the person who thought it had an answer. Now, if I were interviewing job candidates for Google or Facebook, I might ask them something like, how would you define privacy? Or fairness, or merit, or trust, or whatever. I'm pulling words out of recent master's projects. My guess is that the first 9 people I asked about any of those words would come up with more or less the same answer, and it would always be wrong. The 10th would say something like, oh boy, that's really complicated. Can I get back to you on that one? That's the person I'd want to talk to, and I like to think that person would be you. So, congratulations. If the past is any guide, most of you will go on to successful and fulfilling careers. And we'd like to hear about your progress because the success of our alumni redounds to the reputation of their alma mater. In that connection, let me recall that alma mater is Latin for nurturing mother. So let me close with the 4 words that every mother says to her offspring as they go out to make their way in the world. Don't forget to write. Thank you.
Well, I couldn't be more delighted now to introduce our special guest today, Chancellor Carol Christ. Carol is the 11th Chancellor of the University of California, Berkeley. She's also the first woman to hold that position. She is a celebrated scholar of Victorian literature, and she's also well known as an advocate for quality, accessible public higher education, a proponent of the value of a broad education in the liberal arts and sciences, a champion of women's issues and diversity on college campuses. And as I said before, she's a role model and an inspiration to women faculty and administrators on the Berkeley campus and beyond. I'll just say a few words about her biography because she can speak for herself. She spent more than 3 decades as a professor and senior administrator here, and then she became president of Smith College, which she ran for 10 years. And now Berkeley is benefiting from the experience that she gained both at Berkeley previously and at Smith, as she has returned here to direct the Center for Studies of Higher Education, was appointed interim executive vice chancellor and provost, and then became named chancellor in March 2017. Thank you, Carol, for joining us today and for what you've done for Berkeley.
Thank you, Dean Saxenian, for the opportunity to address this year's graduating class. First, I'd like to echo the many congratulations you've heard today. You all have just completed a demanding course of study at one of the nation's leading information schools, and I want to acknowledge your diligence, your perseverance, and your resilience. You've undoubtedly made sacrifices. You've dedicated days and nights and weekends to your academics. Perhaps you juggled school alongside a full-time job or completed your coursework while you were starting a family. And now at the end of your studies here, you're likely experiencing a mix of relief, elation, wonder, and apprehension. But in addition to all that, I hope you also have a keen sense of accomplishment. I've been speaking at a handful of commencement ceremonies this spring, and one of the things that's been on my mind as I watch students graduate is the privilege and responsibility that comes with obtaining a Berkeley degree. I have now no doubt that you, armed with your master's and doctorates from our information school, are apt to thrive in the information age. You've learned how to build and interpret statistical models, how to think critically about data, how to use Python and TensorFlow and Spark, and all sorts of other tools of your trade. You're at the forefront of how people interact with information and technology. And information and technology are embedded in so much of the modern human experience. You're in high demand by startups, established companies, universities, think tanks, and governments. In short, through your experience in your studies, you've gained great power. And in a bit of wisdom that has been attributed sometimes to Voltaire and sometimes to Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Given your skills, knowledge, and credentials, you will be put in positions of leadership that will have you shaping the relationship between humans and information in society. And you will need to draw on everything you've learned and experienced. For as we've seen over the last few years, this relationship is critical, contentious, and constantly changing. How can we reinvent democratic decision-making in a world of pervasive connectivity and technologically enabled concentration of power and wealth? What kind of privacy are we owed in digital environments? How should we form, train, raise, and deploy intelligent systems? How will assistive technologies, cognitive technologies, and other human-machine interfaces alter our lives and our very humanity? The iSchool's human-centric approach to information and data science education has, I think, made you the kind of leaders we need to take on these questions. And I know you're up to the task because you already have. Just looking through some of your capstone final projects shows your careful attention to issues that matter. You looked at using natural language processing to stop hospital billing errors. You built a communication assistant for people with speech disorders. You examined the impact of polling place closures on voter turnout. You created a system to detect rumors spreading on Twitter. You developed a tool to help police deploy resources effectively and without discrimination bias. You built systems to improve the enrollment process of public schools in the Bay Area. I could go on and on. This kind of creative, thoughtful problem solving, infused with an understanding of people's needs and attention to issues of justice and equality, is exactly what you will need to solve the great intractable problems of our time. In 1966, Robert Kennedy gave a speech at the Greek Theater here in Berkeley, and I'll quote his words. "All of us have the right to dissipate our energies and our talents in any way that we wish. But those who are serious about the future have the obligation to direct their energies and their talents toward concrete objectives consistent with the ideals that they profess. In your hands, not with presidents or other leaders, is the future of your world and the best fulfillment of the qualities of your own spirit. Thank you. And now, in the few minutes I have left, I also want to take this opportunity to thank a person who has been so pivotal in the life of the School of Information for much of its 24-year history, and that person is your dean, Anna Saxenian. As you likely know, Anna will step down this summer and return to her faculty position after having served as the leader of the iSchool for 3 terms, or a decade and a half. It would be difficult to overstate the influence that she's had in her time here. Upon taking up the deanship, she led efforts to refocus the school and its academics, as well as give it a new name and a new mission. She then led the school through a period of remarkable growth, more than doubling the size of its faculty and establishing its first faculty chair, doubling the size of its Ph.D. program, and introducing an array of fellowships to support graduate students. She spearheaded the creation of 2 professional online master's programs, MIDS and the Master of Information and Cybersecurity, which have allowed the school to expand its reach and impact tremendously. While there were fewer than 100 students enrolled when Anna began her tenure, today the school enrolls more than 700 across its programs. In addition to this growth, Anna also helped establish the iSchool's 2 interdisciplinary research centers, the Center for Long-Term Cybersecurity and the Center for Technology, Society, and Policy. She launched the annual Data Edge Conference, which draws leading scholars and data science professionals to campus to assess the implications of the data revolution on every aspect of our lives. Beyond all this, Anna has been an incredibly important role model as one of the first women deans on the UC Berkeley campus, and has led an array of iSchool initiatives that aim to increase the number of students from background and faculty from backgrounds historically underrepresented in tech. Her success has been tremendous. This coming fall, half of iSchool PhD students will be women. MIMS enrolls more than 50% women and has done so since this past fall. MIDS has gone from 20% women to 30% in 4 years. And women comprise 38% of the iSchool faculty, a fair amount higher than the campus at 31%. Anna's leadership, as well as her counsel and wisdom and friendship, will be sorely missed. I'm grateful that we will continue to have her on campus as a faculty member of the as the iSchool enters its latest chapter as part of the Division of Data Science and Information. Congratulations to all our graduates. Please join me in extending my deep gratitude to Anna for all that she has done for our campus and for shepherding the iSchool into an exciting new era.
Thank you so much. Thank you. As I said, I'm just embarrassed, so I have to get over that. It's been such a rewarding part of my life. I will always remember all of you for what we've done together. So thank you. Thank you, Carol, and thank you, Geoff. Now, we've been speaking about our students for a long time, but they're here today and they can speak for themselves. So I'd like to start with the first of our 3 student speakers and invite Soravis Prakamakul to come up and speak for the MIMS students.
First of all, I appreciate my classmate for taking the risk of having me as their speaker. My name is Saravis, and I would like to start off by thanking our Dean, Anno, our dedicated faculty, the whole iSchool community, and our esteemed guests. It's such an honor to be here in front of all of you this morning. On behalf of MIMS 19, thanks to other staff and career service for their support and guidance. And sorry, we'll make sure to submit our student satisfaction survey form in time. So to the family members of MIMS students who are here today or otherwise, thank you for your patience. Your hidden labor of keeping us sane throughout the program shall not go unacknowledged. For all of those who are expecting some kind of machine-generated speech from me, I'm sorry to disappoint. In fact, I tried. I ran a recurrent neural network text generator trained by past MIMS speeches, and the only legible thing that it could generate is, I quote, "You all are information." And it's time, my fellow class of 2019, what a ride. Thanks for always staying positive, even upon receiving emails with the subject, "Thank you for applying." Thanks for always signing up to be each other's pilot testers. Half of iSchool projects wouldn't have succeeded without all of your consent. And also, thanks for deep hanging out, and I really enjoy the deep conversations that we had, not only because it's fun, but because anything that begins with the word deep sounds much more intelligent these days. And to the class of 2020, you're a cool bunch to hang out with, and it's going to be sad to leave you. There's something special about 2020. It's often the year that some kind of organizationally curated visions are promised to come true, whether it's zero waste, zero emissions, zero irrelevant Slack messages on Announcement Global. So if 2020 is a milestone for positive change, 2019 is like one of those nights before the deadline. And it's time that we realize that we might not be able to make it in time, so I do have high hopes for you all 20s. At this point in speech, I should turn to address the identity crisis that every MIMS graduate faced, which is, what does it mean to hold a master's in information management and systems? Instead of joking about recruiters' reaction upon seeing a degree on a resume, I choose to take a different path through fiction and speculation. Throughout time, our school has been called the School of Librarianship, the School of Library and Information Studies, and then today, the iSchool. Extrapolating on this trend, it would not be such a surprise that someday we might come up with a different name. So please bear with my fan fiction of the future of iSchool. What if someday we're called School of Computational Empathy? As well as the world's need computer science, it needs us to make sure empathy is built into the machines. And for those of us who are more design inclined, empathy is already at the heart of our practice. And for those of us who are more analytical minded, what is the act of data crunching anyway, if not a way to understand someone who is not like us in a computational way? You might wonder what's the point of bringing up fiction just now. Commencement is a great chance to talk about the future, but what types of future really? Is it the probable, plausible, or preferable future? And without fiction, it's often hard to imagine a future that's different from where we're heading. So let's imagine what kind of world could the School of Computational Empathy be in? Would it be a world where Venmo transactions are not public by default? A world where all websites have HTTPS? A world where web developers have to testify in front of Congress for overusing cookies? A world where Alexa insists that
your data stays on your device?
A world where there is truth serum to fake news? Or a world where Yoda is licensed under the public commons, the public domain? Or a world where there's really diversity in tech? I don't really have an answer, but I do believe in all of you graduates. Let's go out and shape a future that does not sound like an episode of Black Mirror. Thank you and congratulations.
Thanks so much, Saurav. Now I'd like to invite our MIDS student speaker, Christina Papadimitriou.
Thank you, Dean Saxenian. Good morning. My name is Christina Papadimitriou, and I'm so honored to be here right now representing the Master of Information and Data Science graduating class of spring and 2019. Congratulations to my fellow graduates. We did it. Thank you to everyone for traveling from all over the country and the world to join us today in celebrating our accomplishments. Thank you to Dean Anna Saxenian for her leadership and for launching and growing the MIDS program. Thank you to Sue Young and the entire staff at the School of Information for guiding us and helping us succeed. Thank you to our amazing faculty for being our mentors and for giving us so much invaluable knowledge. And thank you to our families and friends for their unconditional love and support. We couldn't have done it without you. I want to start by giving our families and friends an insight into the MIDS program. MIDS is an online degree in data science, but it is not what you would typically expect of an online program. We meet with video and audio in small classrooms, and we engage in interesting discussions. We code together. We use whiteboard screens to draw math formulas or really confusing matrix shapes. If you took 266, you know what I'm talking about. We go to office hours, we have study sessions, group project meetings, and sometimes we engage in long conversations on Slack, and we just talk about life or any other topic of common interest. MIDS students are really brave and impressive, and I can prove it to you. Please raise your hand if you had a baby or have been raising kids during this program. Now, raise your hand if you had a full or part-time job while completing this degree. Now raise it if you moved to a different apartment, house, or city in the middle of a semester. And lastly, raise your hand if you attended class from 1 to 6 a.m. because of the time difference in your country. If that's not passion for knowledge, then what is? You should all be proud of yourselves for taking on this challenge and reaching the finish line. Now I want to talk about what distinguishes this program the most. It is its incredible, vibrant, and active community. One of my favorite quotes is, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." In MIDS, everyone is so passionate and engaged on Slack and in the classroom. We learn from each other, and sometimes we fail together. But in the end, we always succeed because we stand by and help each other. How many times has this happened to you during the MIDS program? You're stuck on a homework problem, on one line of code, and it feels nearly impossible to solve. And then you decide to ask for help from a classmate, and they immediately respond, and they make it their goal to help you solve your problem. That's what MIDS is all about. And that's how we've gotten to this finish line. We did it because we worked together. And I am so thankful to each and every one of you for everything that you taught me. And even if we forget everything that we learned in this degree, which we hopefully won't, the friendships that we have formed will last a lifetime. Now I want to share with you a piece of advice that Joyce Chen, my capstone instructor, shared with us during the last class. She said, "Stop, reflect, and continue." So let's take a moment to stop and reflect on what we have learned and accomplished during this program. Let's go back to our very first class where we started. Some of us didn't know how to code in Python or how to use GitHub and had no idea what to look for when exploring large data sets. Today, we know how to build data pipelines, machine learning and statistical models, field experiments, natural language processing algorithms, hybrid neural networks, how to deal with really big data sets, and how to build a product from start to finish. So how do we continue from now on? This is a very exciting time to be a data scientist. Data scientists are making some of the biggest advances in our society, from image and speak recognition to recommender systems, machine translation, and many others. Our profession is instrumental in driving change, and it is so critically important to do this work with an ethical responsibility towards our communities, to do it with care and empathy, and to be fair, because there are people behind the data sets. I also want to encourage you to dare greatly and get out of your comfort zones. Socrates once said, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." One should be willing to change his or her views, to learn and unlearn, and only then they will be truly successful. Data science is challenging the way things are done in some of the largest organizations today. I want to urge you to challenge the way things are done in your organization and make people uncomfortable, because we need to be uncomfortable first in order to be comfortable with change. But data science is not the only movement that is changing the world right now. There are other really big and important movements. Black Lives Matter, Me Too, Trans Lives Matter. These are movements that I hope will change our communities and make the world a better place. As we go out into the world, we should amplify each other's voices, demand seats for women, people of color, and all marginalized people at every table where decisions are made. Lastly, let's leave this place united and stay connected years from now. Let's work together as a group of alumni as we progress in our careers to forge a better future. Thank you.
And last but not least, I'd like to invite Elaine Sedenberg to speak for the Ph.D. students.
Hello, fellow graduates. Today we celebrate obtaining a degree from one of the top universities in the entire world. Congratulations. Before getting to the pomp and circumstances of our collective achievements, I too would like to take a moment to celebrate and acknowledge Ano as she ends her tenure as our dean. Ano made an academic career studying entrepreneurs and innovation, so it is hardly surprising she herself exhibits these same qualities and brought them here to the iSchool academic community. We have been so lucky to have her. Thank you so much, Ano. Today I'm going to reflect on two themes: perseverance and gratitude. Completing a PhD is akin to running a marathon, except you run one after another for 5 or 6 years, and then you reach a mountain, and then you climb that. Every PhD journey is different, but one thing all PhDs have in common is that you learn to rapidly adapt to challenges both unexpected and perfunctory. I imagine similar to what you all faced during your master's, except a bit more protracted. We become expert problem solvers and adapters. My colleagues here with me today, Raza and Neil, are no exceptions. They changed schools midway through and joined our community in 2016. This sudden change of path undoubtedly came with challenges, but we were so lucky to have them come here with us. Every PhD in this room knows how individually hard it is to complete this journey. This is the tacit understanding that all PhDs share. One thing I learned throughout this very long process is an unintuitive truth. Often when you feel your most helpless and disenfranchised, you are actually your most powerful self. This is true both for us personally, as well as when we gaze around the world and identify the many inequalities and injustices before us. I believe there is a special kind of power that can only come from feeling like we've hit rock bottom. It is only from this place that we can catalyze the type of real change in our lives and society that comes with great risk and persistent action. In these times, it's hard to know where to start. One of my favorite writers once wrote that sometimes all you know is a resounding "not this." Beginning with this simple acknowledgement sometimes is the only thing that you know for sure, is that the status quo is unacceptable. It is a surprisingly formidable yet simple place to begin. As iSchoolers, we study and confront difficult truths about our world, the collision between technology, society, and the people behind the data. These tussles come with great consequences, those from the past, some on this morning's New York Times, and some that we see manifesting in our future. We hold interdisciplinary skills and deep expertise unmatched by our colleagues in other disciplines. We are trained to see and address the great promise and perils of technology. This is why we as Berkeley iSchoolers are exactly what the world needs right now, even if the only place to begin is a not this. This is a process we will continually cycle through for the rest of our lives and careers. And I stand before you today knowing every single person in this audience is capable and empowered to do the job before us, even when you can't help but feel powerless below the magnitude of the circumstances. We are all brave enough to face the challenges ahead, and walking across this stage today is evidence enough. To get to this point, we've all made individual sacrifices and taken risks. Our MIDS students often worked while completing their degrees online, and our MIMS made big life adjustments to return to graduate school. We should be tremendously proud of ourselves, but also none of us got here alone. I knew this part would get me. Looking around this audience, I see proud families, partners, friends, and colleagues. Looking into our respective paths, I see a network of educators and mentors starting in our childhoods who made this path possible for each of us many years ago. During the hardest moments of this PhD, one of the most humbling and powerful realizations was when I paused long enough to look around me and recognize who was still in my life, even when it wasn't particularly glamorous or Instagrammable. This is a gift from our challenging times. And inevitably, when we stumble into our next life transition or slide back into places where we feel vulnerable and lost, look around you. The people there may not always be the people you expected, but take a moment to appreciate the persistent helpers in your life. There are several people in this audience and on this stage without whom I wouldn't be standing before you today. You all know who you are, and I am so deeply thankful each of you is in my life. This has been quite an adventure as a Golden Bear, and I know we will all take a little piece of Berkeley with us wherever we go. Thank you and congratulations.
Now I would like to invite the co-presidents of the Information Management Student Association who will preside over the IMSA Awards, Mina Kaushik and Daniel Rincon.
Okay, so apparently we're doing this like Oscar style, so. Before we announce the awards, on behalf of the class of 2020, I just want to thank you guys, 19s. You've been great, making us feel welcome in the program, helping us go through the journey. So thank you very much, and congratulations to you again. So the awards have been voted by MIMS and Ph.D. students. So I'll go ahead and read the first award, which is Distinguished Faculty. So the Distinguished Faculty Award is given to an outstanding high school faculty member who was heavily involved in the academic life of students, demonstrated leadership, and provided superior academic or professional guidance and advice.
So this year, the award recipient is someone who teaches with absolutely contagious and genuine enthusiasm. He teaches in a way that makes difficult topics more approachable, by relating them to something more familiar and encouraging people to ask questions or challenge concepts, perhaps with the exception of how cute rabbits are. His passion and humor motivates people to take classes that they might have otherwise shied away from and makes them feel welcome and valued in and out of the classroom. His ability to combine a healthy amount of rabbit pictures, stock photos of people eating salad, and Game of Thrones references in his lectures, while unpacking complex statistics and social psychology concepts, is a testament to his ability to make nuanced topics fun, engaging, and memorable.
So this year's Distinguished Faculty Award goes to Coy Sheshwer. Sorry, Professor Coy Sheshwer. Okay, our second award this morning is the Outstanding TA, Teaching Assistant. So the Outstanding Teaching Assistant Award is given to a member of the graduating class who showed a unique or extraordinary commitment to facilitating the learning of students in one or more high school classes. They served as a graduate student instructor. So this year we have 2 award recipients.
Because all y'all are just too incredible. So the first, this is in no particular order. The first, we both had the opportunity to take a class that he was a TA for. And every time he spoke in class, it was with overflowing excitement. He would mention small points that made a massive difference in making complex topics more relevant and understandable. I remember the first time he was showing us how to use a coding language that was new to a lot of us, and he started by saying by no means was he an expert, that he only knew the bare minimum and that Stack Overflow might be a better teacher for anything beyond the bounds of that class. His honesty, humility, and friendliness made us all feel comfortable to ask him questions, and he would somehow respond no matter the time. Also, he reminded us to have fun, from making hip-hop beats to jumping on the dance floor or singing karaoke. Our second, she is sharp and kind, insightful and inspiring, humble and confident. I had the tremendous privilege of having her as a TA this year. She provided incredibly thoughtful and constructive critique in class and on our assignments, which demonstrated her commitment to students' learning and growth. I found myself in awe as she would spend most of the time listening intently before providing her perspective. And when she did provide her perspective, it was in a way that acknowledged and appreciated where someone was coming from, while provoking further thinking or suggesting alternative directions. Her keen and curious eye reminds all of us to see the world a little differently, to observe, reflect, and question, to stay critical and perhaps even a little whimsical.
So this year's awards go to Jake Manwaring and Joyce Lee.
Why do you look so sharp?
So our third and last award this morning is the MIMS Spirit Award. The MIMS Spirit Award is given to a member of the graduating class who demonstrated significant support in academics and/or career guidance, outstanding outreach and leadership with first-year students, and a strong bond with the high school community, both inside and outside South Hall.
Again, there was a tie for this one too, so I don't know. So the first, while accomplishing multiple UX design and research projects, she is also always continually studying the ethics and issues that came along with the technological innovations. Besides her academic achievements, she is one of the warmest people you can find in the program, constantly caring for other people and their well-being. I mean, she's the type of person that when she asks, "How are you doing?" she actually wants to hear the answer. Her inspiring work ethic and social perspective, as well as her eagerness to help or listen, makes her a true embodiment of the MIMS spirit. For a second, his warmth and readiness to help immediately puts people at ease and feel like they belong. To quote a MIMS 20, "I remember instantly feeling like we were brothers, both because he was extremely helpful and because he teased me within the first few minutes." He is the kind of person who is quick to jump on the dance floor or help talk through a machine learning or linear algebra homework problem. His fun-loving, easygoing, and down-to-earth nature, coupled with his strong work ethics, a reminder to consider the impact of our work, clearly demonstrates the MIMS spirit.
Okay, so this year's awards go to Michelle Chen and Mahmoud Hamsho.
So that concludes our awards, but to know all of you are very award-worthy. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know all of you. We are so grateful for your advice and your support, your humor, and perhaps most of all, your friendship. While we'll miss seeing you in South Hall or around campus, we know that the world can definitely use your vision, your talent, and your spirit. So congratulations, cheers, and we can't wait to see where our paths might cross again.
Okay, it's my pleasure now to announce the 2 winning teams for the 2019 James R. Chen Awards. These awards are given annually to the most outstanding capstone project teams in honor of James Chen, a research computer scientist who worked in the area of personalized information retrieval. We're actually delighted to have Lily Chang, his wife, here with us today. So since there are 2 awards, I'm going to announce one and tell you about it, and then announce the other one. Can I ask that you don't applaud or come up until I finish describing the project? I know you're going to want to, but I want to describe the project too. Okay, so the first James R. Chen Award goes to Improving the Enrollment Experience for Families. Okay, you can clap, that's okay. This goes to Varshin Chandrakanathan, Rajasi Desai, and Kaushiki Priyam. Please. This project aims to make the process of enrollment in the public schools in the San Francisco Bay Area more understandable for the parents. This project was done in collaboration with the San Francisco Unified School District, and Jenna Burrell was the advisor. Join me in congratulating them. Now you can come get your awards. Sorry, I didn't mean to intimidate you. The second 2019 James R. Chen Award goes to a project called Skindex. Devin Huang, Daphne Zhang, Monica Parmicha, Jeffrey Chi, and Chuan Yu. Skindex is an AI-powered and personalized search and discovery platform that allows users to find skincare and cosmetic products that are compatible with their skin. And their faculty advisor is John Chuang. Please come up and accept your award. It's now my honor to announce the MIDS Teaching Awards. The MIDS Distinguished Faculty Award this year goes to Maya Miller-Vidam, lecturer for data science, W261, machine learning at scale. Unfortunately, Maya isn't here to accept the award. And the MIDS Best TA Award goes to Chrissy Johnfort. Unfortunately, Chrissy isn't here either, but let's give them both a round of applause. Okay, last but by far not least, the Hal R. Varian MIDS Capstone Awards. This prize is given in honor of Hal Varian, the founding dean of the School of Information, for the most outstanding capstone project. Competition for this prize is very tough because we have such large graduating cohorts. This year, the Hal R. Varian Award goes to SoundFlux, a sound-based fall detection system. You can clap. Romula Manzano, Matt Thalen, and Mike Frazzini. SoundFlux is an amazing project. It is a sound-based fall detection system that uses a neural network trained from simulated human falls, along with millions of open source sounds to provide effective, low-cost, unintrusive, and privacy-sensitive peace of mind for their elderly and their loved ones. Congratulations. Oh, yeah, Mike is, okay, congratulations. Okay, we are now at the point that you've all been waiting for, when we will confer the degrees. I just want to once again congratulate all of you for how far you've come, and I really look forward to how far you will go in the future. I'd like to call up John Chuang to read the names of the MIMS students. Before the name reading begins, I want to remind you to pause briefly when you shake my hand and look at the photographer for a picture. Some people just get anxious and walk by too fast.
Ayo animation. Matt Bailey. Barinder Singh Bhatia. Bo Brent. Timothy States Burke. Vashini Chandrakanthan. Michelle Chen. Hanyu Erica Chen. Zixuan Dai. Rajusi Desai. Mark Fadil. Zhihao Fan. Dylan R. Fox. Mahmoud Hemshu. Amy Huang. Devin Huang. Connor James Hunihan. Demetrius Hitiru. Daphne John. Rohan Kapuria. Rohan Kar. Akriti Kao. Joyce S. Lee. Winnie Lee. Alyssa Lee. Yichen Lin. Chin Yi Lin. Lily E. Lin. Mu Xuan Lü. Jake Manwaring. Neha Mittal. Evelyn Muthoni Mwangi. Udit Nakat. Monique Pamecha. Anu Pandey. Michelle Ann Perez. Tanya Piplani. Seju Popik. Suravis Prakamakun. Kaushiki Priyum. Anuj Ramakrishnan. Shevya Rastuji. Surya Sendo. Jiaxun Song. Ashish Suar. Jingshong Wu. Peiyu Yang. Chen Yu. Jeffrey Zhiquan Yu.
Congratulations to all the MIMS 19, and now I'd like to, yes. And I'd like to invite Alex Hughes up to read the names of the MIDS students.
So for the MIDS students, I'll read your names once you come past. That way we're clapping while you're in front of Anna. And bring your kids if you've brought them. Go ahead, Jean. Congrats. Jean An. Asha Anju. Ram Balasubramanian. James Matthew Beck. Julia Ann Buffington. Jesse Lamas Cavillo. Felipe Campos. Cheng Cheng. Chris Danisic. Sarav Dada. Kingsuk Maitra. Zachary Reed Merritt. Sohag Desai. Arturo Esquera. Luke Evans. Ronnie Fields. F. Michael Franzini. Bala Ganeshan. Kevin Scott Gifford. Mark Jin. Sung Hoon Ham. David Harding. Richard A. Hitchens. Simon Hodgkinson. Congratulations. Go for it, Matt. Matthew Randall Holmes and crew. Lynn Tron. Rich Ung. Nishant Velagapudi. Jeffrey Su. Sarav Jaju. Tiffany Victorine Jaya. Calvin Cow. Daniel Theodore Ling Kent. April Kim. Bo Brannick Kramer. Pavan Kumar Kurapati. Alice Shemling Lamb. Noah William Levy. Michelle Liu. Allison Walker. Laura Williams. Arvind Ganesan. Aniruddha Mittal. Jack C. Workman. Tianhao Zhu. Jiaoning Yu. Jing Zhang. Anusha Munjaluri. James Wynn. Christina Papadimitriou. John Pett. Melvin Puvikotu. Matthew Aaron Potts. Anthony Ramirez. Anamika Sina. Sudha Subramanian. One more round of applause for all of the MIDS graduates, please.
And you know, PhDs are all used to waiting for a long time and everything takes a long time. Well, now it's your chance to come up and be awarded your degrees. I'm going to ask Coy Cheshire to come up and read the names, and they'll be hooded, as is appropriate for PhD students.
All right, PhDs. Niall Kerrigan Kelleher. His dissertation entitled Economic Indicators and Social Networks, New Approaches to Measuring Poverty, Prices, and Impacts of Technology. Hooded by Paul Duguid, his head advisor, Professor Joshua Blumenstock. Muhammad Raza Khan. His dissertation entitled Machine Learning for the Developing World Using Mobile Communication Metadata. He will be hooded by Professor Joshua Blumenstock. And last but not least, Elaine M. Siedenberg. Her dissertation entitled Public Interests, Private Data, Biosense Data Consumed and Shared for Research Purposes, hooded by her co-advisors, Professors John Schwang and Deirdre Mulligan.
Thank you to Kauai, and congratulations again to the PhDs and their children. We're about at the end of the ceremony. I want to thank all of the family and friends who've come here from far and near for your support of these students and of the school. And I especially want to thank the staff of the iSchool for your hard work and once again doing such a wonderful job with graduation. Please give them a round of applause. To all the 2019 graduates, like he said, don't forget to write. Stay in touch with us, and with one another and with us. And now you're all invited back to South Hall for a reception. I look forward to seeing you there.